Thinking about those different means of play, I was brought to things like Dread, for example. I think is a good one. Right, Dread is a role-playing game. There are rules to this game. There are bespoke rules to this game. Barely, but they exist. To those of you who don't know, we've spoken about Dread before. Dread is a collaborative horror role-playing game that utilizes Jenga blocks as its dice, quote unquote.
It utilizes Jenga blocks as its random outcome generator.
Yes.
Although you can make an argument that it's not random because Jenga's not really random, but we don't need to go down that whole rabbit hole.
Yes. The idea being is that I believe, what's the
Although actually, fun fact, I played Dread with dice digitally, so it was random.
How would you? Did you just arbitrarily set DC?
No, so it was like, oh god, how do we do it? It was like you would roll. It was like we had a picture of like, did we roll a D100? I don't remember what dice. Maybe it was a D20. I don't remember. It was like we had a picture of the numbers, and it was like, okay, a 4 has been rolled. 4 is off the table. If you roll another 4, that's like a failure or something like that. And you can only accrue a certain number of failures or something. I forget how we did it, but there's like, it might be in the game actually. It might be an alternative rule for playing in the game. I don't remember because we weren't, it was online. So obviously we can't play Jenga.
Yeah.
But we did it with dice. I just don't remember how we did it exactly. I don't remember the exact methodology.
Interesting. Okay. Well,
not important.
You've got more experience on Dread than I do. So why don't you explain sort of the basics of Dread?
I mean, it's been a fucking minute, but like, basically it's just someone is the GM. Someone is the movie director is probably a better way to put it, honestly. And you do the GM thing, you describe, players respond, so on and so forth. And then when the player wants to do something that is like dangerous, which is to say, you have a chance of failure. The GM says, okay, pull a Jenga block. And if the tower falls, you fail. If the tower succeeds, you don't fail. Or if the tower doesn't fall, you don't fail. Basically. Mm-hmm. About it.
So and it's pretty simple, right? I would consider that an alternative way of play, right? Because
there is more to it. The rule book is 90 pages, so there is like more to it that I'm saying, but yeah.
Well, yes, because then you get into certain things require multiple pulls.
Well, there's like types of games. It tells you how to play and like how to deal with the characters and how to host and blah blah blah. So there's stuff in there.
Yes, I would classify that as an alternative way of playing the game, right? Your random number generator is something you have far more control of for the most part, right? Like you can feel out blocks, you can pick the easy ones, and then that leads you to the idea of, do I pick harder blocks for easier things? Because the idea being is that when the tower falls, something bad happens.
Bad shit happens. And
clearly, if your character is walking down a flight of stairs, that's a dumb one. Like if you're playing darts for whatever reason,
stab the dart through your hand.
Yeah, if you drop the tower, you're most likely gonna put the dart through a window or something, right? The game sort of states that it should be something bad, but what is bad is sort of relative,
Well, yes, it should follow the fiction, like any other role-playing game for the most part.
Yes, so the original point being the idea, do you pull harder blocks earlier on because at some point shit's gonna hit the fan and you're gonna want those easy pulls, or what? That's an interesting way of play. And I don't know if Dread it branches out of the horror. It's called Dread for a reason. But I could see something like that either helping to heighten a roleplay experience or help build one out. And I remember we talked about The Quiet Year a while back. And we may have talked about it on podcast, I don't know. But to those of you who don't know, The Quiet Year is
less of a game, I would say.
Well, it is. I think it's more of a game, less of a role-playing game.
No, I would say Quiet Year is not even really a game because you can't really lose. There's no failure state. Quiet Year is like a collaborative world building thing. You can't, there's nothing, you're not working against each other in any way, and you can't fail in any way, so it's not even really a game. It's almost just this, it'd be like if you were doing it's almost like a creative writing exercise, but with like prompts and the cards generating said prompts. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
But it is a, I mean, yeah. I wouldn't really, like, if you're looking for something that's gonna be like me and my friends compete in some fashion, is very much not that. It is the polar opposite, in fact.
Yes, and fair enough. And to that point, though, the idea of, we were talking about people using the Quiet Year as this world building exercise, and extrapolating that into using it for roleplay games like Apocalypse World. The idea being that in the Quiet Year, you build your settlement, your environment, everything that has to do with it, and that becomes the GM's notes. That becomes the sort of structure by which the game is built off of.
It becomes,
and I think that's super interesting.
Becomes the world you then campaign in. I think they came out like right around the same time, which is why it gets tied to Apocalypse World a lot. Or they came out pretty close to each other.
Wasn't the Quiet Year, it was the people who made Monster Hearts, right?
No. I don't remember now. Might be the same publisher, I think. Yeah, it's the same publisher. Don't remember if it's the same creators. Not sure.
Fair enough. And, you know, I wish I had more to say about either Dread or Quiet Year. I haven't personally experienced them, but they are different ways in which you can interact with the hobby, and I think they were worth mentioning. Especially something like the Quiet Year. The idea that you could extrapolate that out sort of infinitely, right? You could play Haunting on Hill House as the prequel to your Cthulhu game, or
I feel like that might be a thing people have done.
I'm sure it is, because it's fascinating. It allows the players to have more control over helping set the scene, and they'll sort of innately feel more connected to it and have more understanding of the world at large. Just because they don't have to ask the GM as much. They were there when it was done. It's literally, speak not to me the old magics, for I were there when they were written, you know?
Something like that.
And that's really cool. And you can do that out of campaign anyway, right? Like I talk about the Fire Emblem campaign that I was in. It's the second game I was ever in, to those of you who don't know. And when we were doing the world building, Ant, someone we've talked about pretty often, basically told us we were doing the Fire Emblem thing. Your characters are lords, your nobility. You come from a place on this map. Pick where you want to come from on the map and tell me about it. What's it about? Why are they there? Give me any and all information you want. And whatever you don't fill in, I will do myself.
Okay, so upon researching, yes, same person who made the Quiet Year did indeed Monster Hearts.
Ah, okay, cool. And while we were doing that, right, there was no different method of play, right? We were just sort of sending him DMs, but it accomplishes the same thing. And I think doing something like the Quiet Year can be more fun because there's a sort of reliance upon the game, or upon a game, right? There's a literal play to it. And I think that can be equally, if not potentially a little bit more fulfilling, because it's collaborative the whole way.
Yeah. I'm doing some Googling. Figure out. Yeah, okay, yeah. So I wasn't totally off. Quiet Year came out in 2013. Apocalypse World came out in 2010. So.
God, the fact that was 15 years ago. Oh my lord.
I mean, yeah. Wow, that's weird.
I don't know.
That's funny. That means I played Apocalypse World like not long after it came out. Weird. Huh.
I was talking to Paladin the other day. I don't remember exactly when we were talking.